The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast without the breaks and commercials. Now, here's host Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome to another edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. We're here with Deb Ross. He's this is quite a title. You're the chairman of the Rochester Eclipse Task Force.
Indeed.
Yes.
Founder, chairman, lead, cheerful dork. Absolutely.
And the co-chair of the AAS. What's AAS?
The American Astronomical Society.
Wow.
Yes, even though I'm not an astronomer.
Wow. National Solar Eclipse Task Force.
Correct.
So have you met Neil deGrasse Tyson?
No, I have not. Neil deGrasse Tyson is not that impressed by eclipses. And he's right in a certain sense, because astronomically, it is not an incredibly complicated thing, a total solar eclipse. I think he likes the sexier, farther out, complicated stuff.
Yeah, he's more into it. Is there one universe or is there a meta universe?
Right.
Yeah, he's into this really,
This is just a shadow.
Yeah,
but it's not just a shadow.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing about it is that it's not something that, like, if you miss it, we'll catch the second show,
Nope. No, indeed. I mean, an eclipse, a total solar eclipse, happens somewhere in the world every about 18 months. So when you talk about rare, it's not that rare technically, but it is rare from wherever you're standing on Earth. Typically, these are over water and they're brief. We've gotten very blessed in the continental U.S. because in 2017, we had a total solar eclipse that traversed the U.S. from basically the upper left-hand corner to the lower right-hand corner. So Oregon, across the country, down to South Carolina. And only 7 years later, we're getting another great North American total solar eclipse, this time coming up through Mexico, then Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, a little bit of Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, a little bit of Ohio, a little tiny corner of Pennsylvania, then Western New York, the top of the Adirondacks, and then the top of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, and then out through the Canadian Maritimes. But after 2024, there will not be another eclipse in the continental U.S. for 21 years.
Ooh.
So we need to wait until 2144, and then that'll be in California, Texas, and Florida. Not here. Not here for another 120 years, Dom.
Ooh.
Yep.
So got to pay attention to this, which is what you're doing. You're educating everybody about the solar eclipse. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let me ask you the question that I usually ask everybody, kind of the silly little question.
Yes.
When you were 10 years old, what do you want to do?
So when I was 10 years old, I thought that what I was going to do was neuroscience, because I thought that I was going to help. I watched people getting old, and I watched them sort of getting mentally frail. And what I wanted to do was sort of be a scientist who was going to prevent that.
Wow, that's really cool. I Christian Garzone was on last week, and he, when he was 10 years old, said he wanted to be a bartender.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Right.
Yours is a little more cerebral than that.
Yeah. And then my biology teacher, when I was talking to him about this when I was 16, told me, you know what? I bet you're going to do something that has not been invented yet.
Yeah.
And he was right. About 14 years later, 14, 15, 16 years later, that's exactly what I did. Because the internet didn't exist in 1985.
Yeah.
To regular people.
That's true. Are you a Rochester person?
I am not. I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay, where in New Jersey?
In Cranford, exit 137 off the Garden State Parkway.
It's nice down there, right? I mean, it's
sure.
It's like suburb. It's not like like Newark.
No, but we're about 20 minutes west of Newark.
Okay, all right. So tell us what we need to know first, second, third, fourth, and fifth about this eclipse, because it's going to have a tremendous impact on us and the economy and things to do, and there's a lot of stuff that's being planned and
right. So the most important global thing to know about the eclipse is that every single person who experiences totality will come out with a story.
Okay.
That's the first thing. We could talk about that. The second thing that they need to know is that, for example, this is rare, and it's going to happen for 3 minutes and 38 seconds on Monday, April 8th at 3:20 p.m. Okay, so You need to make sure on Monday, April 8th, that you are in a position to experience this. Fortunately, the schools are canceled. We worked on that for about 2 years, the task force, to help educators and the administrators be aware that, no, what we want at 3:20 p.m. is we do not want kids trapped in a bus unable to experience this amazing thing. Third thing you need to know is that our area is expecting between 375,000 and 500,000 people to come here from mostly the major metropolitan areas of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and DC, because we are the easternmost city that will experience totality. And fourth, and so there's going to be a lot of traffic and a lot of opportunity. And fourth, the most important thing is that 99% is not totality. So if you think that, so seeing 99% of the moon, of the sun being covered by the moon through your approved solar eclipse glasses, that is not the same experience as when the moon fully covers the earth. When the moon fully covers the sun. Got my celestial bodies mixed up. From just a phenomenological point and also from a personal and spiritual point. So those are the overall points that what we need to hit all of those and why.
Okay, so this is compelling. A couple of questions that just come to mind. So, so the totality is just a couple of minutes.
Totality is 3 minutes and 38 seconds here in Rochester, given as close you are to the center line of this 120-mile path, which is the shadow crossing over the earth. So Brockport is dead on the center line, and they will get 3 minutes and 43 seconds, 5 more seconds.
Okay, now have you been through a solar eclipse yourself?
I have.
Okay,
I have an eclipse story.
There you go. Okay, because here's some compelling questions, all right?
Yes.
So when this is happening, okay, now people are going between here and there, they're on the throughway,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so are there people that are traveling around that go, we're just going to pull off the side of the road, and is it like everything come to a stop? I mean, everybody who's inside a building's got to come outside of the building, right?
They do have to come outside.
That's going to be really weird.
It will be so weird. So I'll tell you my eclipse story. Again, everybody's going to have their own. But the important thing to prepare, so if you're prepared for it, if you know this is going to happen, then what you're not doing is driving on the throughway at 3:20 p.m. Because what you're doing is you're preparing for where you're going to be, and you're going to be with people you love if you're preparing at all. So if some people that you don't love that live in Philadelphia say to you, hey, can I just stay, in your house for that weekend because there's no more hotels? What you say is no, because if you need to be with people you love. Right. But that's true, though. The hotels will all sell out. They are largely sold out already. Now, my eclipse story does not start off as my story. It starts off in 2012 as my daughter Ella's story. In 2012, she was 11 years old, and she came home from the Strasbourg Planetarium and said to me, Mom, in 5 years, I will be 16. It'll be 2017. And you and I are taking a road trip to Missouri. And I said, that's lovely, darling. Because what 11-year-old plans for something 5 years in the future, right? For something that's going to happen for a couple minutes. Also, I was a skeptic because I know what it means to get dark. I know the moon goes around the earth and the earth goes around the sun. By the way, 25% of Americans don't know this. Just so you know, moon goes around the earth goes around the sun. And I said, well, okay, but what's the big deal? And she said, trust me, it's going to be amazing. So in fact, of course, we did drive hundreds of miles, and we landed in St. Louis, which was at 99% covered. And I said, and we went to the Science Center the day before, and there was all this excitement, and we built up, and I got my merchandise, and the guy behind the merchandise counter said, whatever merch y'all people are thinking of buying in Rochester for 2024, double it. I can't keep it on the shelves. And then I said, Ella, why don't we stay in New York? Why don't we stay right here in St. Louis? Because there's so much happening. And look, we could see an astronaut and blah. She said, Mom, we have driven hundreds of miles. We're at 99%. Tomorrow we are going into the path of totality. I said, okay, fine, darling, whatever you say. And so, of course, the next day we did that. I'm going to tell you about that experience because it is a version of a story that every single person here in Rochester will have on their own.
And we'll tell that story right after this break. This segment of the No Nonsense Roundtable is brought to you by McClure, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chevy, and Buick, and Perry. Hey, all new car dealers pay the same price for their new cars and trucks. There's no volume discount. So your buying decision now comes down to price and ease of doing business. Family owned for generations, you'll find John McClurg himself there in the dealerships day to day, and you get a great no-nonsense deal you'll be hard-pressed to find anywhere else. Contact them at McClurg-ChryslerDodgeJeep.com or simply go to NoNonsenseRoundtable.com to connect with them. This portion of the show is brought to you by Martinizing Dry Cleaners in Fairport. During COVID days, I discovered a dry cleaner that would pick up and deliver. I discovered Martinizing in Fairport. I later discovered that the owner, Todd, was an ex-corporate employee who went on to start his own business just like I did, and his customer service is beyond compare. Google rating, 4.9 with 143 reviews, 4.9. Call 425-4242 or martinizing.com/Fairport. Well, welcome back. You're listening to No Nonsense Roundtable. We're talking to Deb Ross now, who has everything to do with everything with the with the solar eclipse, and we're talking about the incident or experience itself now because you've been through it before, and we're going to get into a little bit about the economics and entertainment value of this a little later in the show. But we're going to bring it back to you were in St. Louis, and it sounds like you were saying to your daughter, if I'm getting this right, that we're here 99% totality, and that's like good enough, and your daughter's like, no, Mom.
Right.
Is that what
she said? I've been planning this for 5 years. We've driven hundreds of miles. Do you think I'm not going to go into the path of totality? Okay, whatever you say.
It's like a third of her life.
It is. I know, right?
Really, yeah.
And so the next morning we woke up and along with all of the other eclipse chasers there in the hotel, which of course had been sold out months in advance. Ella got me to make the reservation like 3 months in advance. I was like, okay, fine, whatever you say. And we were watching the Weather Channel. We were looking at clouds and we were seeing the cloud patterns and looking at the predictions. So now there are two kinds of eclipse experiences anybody can have. You can have a eclipse experience where you're with thousands or hundreds or dozens of people all together kind of bonded under this few minute experience. Or you could have a me eclipse, which is really when you're on your own or with just a few people you love outside in nature, bonding with the universe. And it depends on what kind of person you are. And so that's part of the reason we're talking about this now, so that everyone look inside themselves and think, which of those kinds of experiences do I want? And Rochester, of course, is turning out beautifully so that you can have anything under the sun that you want. You custom design it yourself.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. I mean, do you want New Year's Eve Times Square?
Right.
Or do you want to be out in the middle of Finger Lake someplace and, on a blanket?
Exactly.
I hadn't think about that. So you have to sort of like, you're talking about kind of mentally planning for this.
I am talking about that.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're talking about an experience.
Mm-hmm. This is an experience you are never going to forget and a story you're going to tell for the rest of your life. And so Ella and I were looking. So Ella's definitely a me eclipse kind of girl. She likes being out by herself. And so we found the little tiny town of Kimmswick, Missouri, which is out in the middle of nowhere. And they had a little town square where they were doing stuff. But Ella said, no, that's not for me. So we found a railroad, sort of a railroad embankment on the outskirts of town. Now, I am somebody who talks to everybody, as you can imagine. Ella is not. And the town of Kimmswick sent teenagers around on bicycles with fists full of eclipse glasses because they were going to make sure. And of course, I talked to the teenage boy on the bicycle, which mortified my daughter. And I found out that was what the town had selected as their identity. Crisp, clean, simple. We are going to make sure that everybody experiences this eclipse safely. Now let's parentheses bracket that and talk about safety for a minute. While the sun is out, while it is light out, in order to look at the sun, you must be wearing approved solar filter ISO certified glasses in order not to damage your eyes. And you're going to wear those you can actually wear them anytime and look at the sun. You can see sunspots, etc. If you put on those eclipse glasses, which you can buy at the RMSC and various places around town for $2.50, they're cheap. But you want to get them now because you don't want them to run out before the eclipse. That's important. So we're watching through our glasses about an hour and 13 minutes as the moon slowly covers the sun. And I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to experience with my whole body, the thing that you've only read about since you were third grade in books or seen kind of on, you feel yourself in the universe. You feel the sun, the moon, the earth, and you there. You experience celestial mechanics with your whole body. So I started to understand what it was that people had been chasing.
Yeah, and I mean, the street lights are going to come on.
They are. You want to be away from them.
Yeah, you want to be away from them. But the other lights are not. I mean, you're not going to find quite the light pollution that you would have because people aren't going to have their lights on. I mean, the lights not going to be on your car.
Right.
I mean, you're going to be parked someplace, so you're not going to have that. You're going to have less light pollution, but you're going to be able to see stars in the middle of the afternoon.
You are.
Yeah, that's got to be really.
It is. Now the light,
freaky. Yeah.
The light doesn't actually diminish. It's not like a gradual sunset for an hour and 13 minutes. In fact, if you didn't know it was happening, until it's 99% covered, the quality of the light doesn't feel like it's changing to you at all. It's only in that last minute, that last 1%, that suddenly the world goes from light to dark. And as the moon finishes covering the sun, that is when you take your glasses off and you see a spectacle that you have never seen before. And you won't here for another 21 years in the continental US, and not in Rochester for another 120 years. So unless you're planning on staying put and staying alive, this is your shot. So what you see the corona of the sun streaming behind the moon. The sky turns midnight blue. The stars come out. The birds fly back to their nests. All around the horizon, 360 degrees, is a sunset glow of red and gold.
Really?
Uh-huh. It is spectacular. You can see pictures of it. Everybody sees it. It is not what the pictures show because you are in that experience of the universe. There is nothing like it on Earth.
You're getting me very, very interested and excited about learning even more about this. There's got to be stuff online and stuff to pick out.
Oh, sure,
this, right?
Absolutely.
What would you recommend if somebody wants to do a little preview or expectations of what they should see?
One of the first things we did later, I'll tell you about starting the task force, but we made a website, RochesterEclipse2024.org, and that has all the information you need about safety, about the experience, about activities you can do with your kids and family. If you're having an eclipse party, here's what you can do. Places to go in Rochester. Rochester is the most prepared region in the path of totality for April 8th of 2024, I'm proud to say. So everything, RochesterEclipse2024.org.
Let's give it to them one more time.
RochesterEclipse2024.org. And if you forget that, you can Google Rochester Eclipse 2024 and it'll come right up.
So your daughter's going to be, I mean, it's got to be rare to have seen this twice in a lifetime. So your daughter's got to be really...
She is excited. She is coming back from Philadelphia, of course, for it. So she's continued to be part of that story because really she got us started on this. And in fact, an interesting phenomenon that I'll be interested if the listeners have this experience. After the eclipse is done, 3 minutes and 38 seconds, after totality is done, you can watch the moon move the other way across the sun for the next hour and 13 minutes. But what the country discovered in 2017 is that psychologically, once totality is done, people are kind of done. They've had that experience and they seem to be ready to go. And so everybody else in the country was. In fact, I said to Ella after 2017, I said, shall we, watch as the moon, finishes like an hour? She said, nah, let's go to Chicago. And so did everybody else in the country. Not everybody else went to Chicago, but everybody else jumped in their car. And so what we're doing here in Rochester, we're very aware of what happened traffic-wise in 2017. And so we have been planning, not just, arts and cultural people, but the Genesee Transportation Council to help mitigate that for 2024.
Well, and when we come back for the break, now we're going to talk about activities that you have planned before because you have something going on at the I want to call it, for some reason I have a brain cramp. I want to call it the War Memorial. No, what you call
the Blue Cross Arena. Yes, of course, yes.
And then I guess the Red Wings are having something.
Oh, there is so much, Dom. I can't wait to tell you about all of it.
Okay, so when we come back from this news break, we're going to be talking about that. And then you have things that are suggesting, it sounds like, after the eclipse is over, and things to do and places to go.
Yep.
Okay, well, right after this. Hey, gang, this is Dom from my friends at Fanatics Pub and Blue Stage in Lyman, New York. Tonight on stage, Jim Shelley has Joe Beard, legendary blues singer, guitarist, and inductee of the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. Joe's performed with the likes of B.B. King and Muddy Waters. There are a few tickets left. Great music, great food, and a short scoot down 390 gets you there. Fanatics Pub. Get your tickets at fanaticspub.com. Welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We're here with Deb Ross, a fascinating person. Now, you do some radio yourself, right?
That's true. That's true. I've been the weekly Rah Rah Rochester guest on Warm 101.3 for the last 15 years on Friday mornings. It's fun.
Yeah, you seem to, you have a talent for this.
Thank you.
Now, have you always wanted to get up in front of people and perform?
No,
like that?
In fact, see, you know how to draw people out. I was the quiet kid in the back of the science class in high school. And so Facebook is a fascinating thing because as I started the whole kidsoutandabout.com and started, it's very easy to be a big fish in a small pond when you're saying great things about a community. So I started getting invites to be on TV and do a lot of radio and things. And as my high school friends started seeing this on Facebook, they'd all sort of email me like, wait, you're on TV? You are on the radio? What do you mean? Because no, I kind of reinvented myself after high school. I realized, oh wow, I'm going away from all these people. Fantastic! I'm going to a whole new place. I can be whatever I want to be. And I thought about that and thought, how do I be who I really am?
Did you have to overcome butterflies? Most people, they say, or a lot of people, are more afraid of public speaking than death.
Yeah. No, well, by the time the Kids Out and About thing started, no, I wasn't worried about that. The thing, and this is actually a valid point. When you're a kid, I was nervous, but it was partly because I had nothing to say. And I knew that I was not an expert in anything. So it was really hard for me to be up in front of a class or be in a group of people without something actually to say. And then I ended up, working in thinking and making things, and then I had something that people were interested in hearing. So it kind of it was easier.
Well, what I found is that people, they don't know what you're going to say. So if you forget to say something, they don't know you forgot to say it because they weren't expecting it anyway.
Good point.
Talk about that other. You mentioned something about the
kidsoutandabout.com.
Kids Out About,
that one.
Yeah, that. Since you brought it up, let's spend 30 seconds or a minute on that.
Sure, absolutely. So kidsoutandabout.com. In 2001, I had a toddler and one on the way. My background ended up being in marketing technology in the 90s. And so there was no such thing as a web calendar in 2001, believe it or not. But Rochester is so full of amazing things for kids and families to do that I was finding out about them after the fact in the newspaper and, on TV. And so I thought somebody should start a website where all of the organizations can just post all their things. And then that website, it helps people know in advance what to do. Sounds really simple and straightforward now, but yeah. So on my maternity leave from my other technology consulting business, I started kidsoutandabout.com just as a community service here in Rochester in 2001.
Yeah, just a little retail on that. I looked at it today because it was in your email, and it's really kind of cool. I mean, if you want to find something to do with your kids, it's all right there. It's really, really cool. But we got to bring it back to where you're here, which is the
total solar eclipse.
Yes. So there's stuff that's being planned ahead of time, and then you have stuff that's suggested for after it. So
that's right.
Let's go through some of this stuff.
I was really driving home from the 2017 eclipse. I realized we need to prepare. We need to get out ahead of this, and we need to do it soon. Partly because it's fun to do, and partly because we need to make sure that everybody who's going to be coming to Rochester has a list, an itinerary as long as their arm, because everybody has a different interest. Everybody has a different, thing that they would like to do. And this is our moment in 21st century history. There's nothing negative about an eclipse. And unlike most moments in history, this is something that we can prepare for. So usually the story is how you reacted to something like COVID or whatever. We've been preparing for this for the last 7 years. So this story is not just a 3 minute and 38 second story. This is a 7 years plus 3 minute and 38 second plus the next 120 years until the next eclipse in Rochester story. So we had the privilege of being able to craft this story on purpose. And because due to the Kids Out and About thing, I know everybody in Rochester who's doing stuff, arts, culture, recreation, sports, all that. I said, okay, well, I guess I am chair of this task force that I'm starting right here in my head. And the task force now doesn't legally exist, never has, but it has over 800 members and 3 main pillars of it: the Rochester Museum and Science Center, the Genesee Transportation Council, and Visit Rochester. Visit Rochester is working on pulling people in from outside and shouting about Rochester. Rochester Museum and Science Center is educating everybody under the sun about how to experience this safely. And the Genesee Transportation Council is the liaison to all the government and is helping manage the traffic. So everybody's been working together, and there is so much planned consequently. All these 800 people, many of them are planning things, and we've scattered it. I don't want to say we have, because this is a grassroots thing. It is scattered throughout the 5-county region. There are 24 major events already on the books right now, whereas most of the regions have just 1 or 2.
Okay, so let's talk specifically about some of these things.
Sure. Some of them are 3-day, 4-day festivals. So the Rochester Museum and Science Center is doing Rock the Eclipse on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Remember, the eclipse is Monday, so we have that wonderful weekend in between. Also, the week before that is spring break week for all of New York, because Easter is on March 31st. So that week following, April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the kids are off. So then here in Western New York, they have off also on Monday, April 8th. So the George Eastman Museum is doing Focus Click Totality, a 4-day festival, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, because we're looking to keep everybody here to prevent them from going home at 3:24 p.m. on Monday, April 8th. They're not going to make it home to work in Boston for Tuesday. They might as well stay the extra day. The Rochester Red Wings are going to have fun games on Friday. That's their opening weekend. So they'll be playing the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, and they're renaming the teams. It's going to be great. But then Monday, they're giving the whole stadium over to Solar Palooza, a whole day-long festival. It'll be amazing. And the Sky Coasters are playing. Isn't that poetic? The Sky Coasters. What else is a moon but a Sky Coaster? Yeah. We have the Genesee Country Village doing a 4-day festival called Solar Spectacle, where you're going to wander throughout the village and learn all about 19th century experiences of eclipses. And then on the day, you could rent a house, one of the 19th century houses, for you and your entire party. And you'll have food, and you'll have warmth, and you'll have either a wheat eclipse or a meat eclipse experience. There's so much. I could go on and on.
Well, let's talk about the Blue Cross Arena.
Yes. So one of the things that there's nothing that pulls together a community like art. And so on the night before the eclipse, so Sunday night, April 7th, the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra will be at the Blue Cross Arena for thousands of a crowd of thousands, both visitors and here, for Jeff Tyzik's new composition, world premiere of his Eclipse Suite. So we'll have Jeff Tyzik conducting, we'll have Andreas Delfs conducting, and we'll have, oh my gosh, I forget their new conductor, their new assistant conductor, Gerard. I can't remember his last name. Sorry, RPO, my bad. And so they'll be playing not only Jeff's piece, but they'll be having the Rochester City Ballet dancing. Yeah. They will have all the John Williams Star Wars and all of that. That's all playing. And they'll have a science festival in the couple of hours before, right there in the atrium. And then all the international media will be here. So on Monday morning, what everybody around the planet will be waking up to on Monday morning news and live here in Rochester, New York, last night's eclipse spectacle from the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra to an amazing light show world premiere, Jeff Tyzik's Eclipse Suite. And so all that beautiful B-roll of all of the light show will be there for everybody everywhere waking up to what's going to happen that day, the Great North American Total Solar Eclipse.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Rochester is going to get an awful lot of attention just because of our geographic location. And the other thing is that We have the airport, and these people can fly in.
They can.
From ABC and NBC and CBS and whatever. So
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Well, we are going into another break, and we're going to be talking more about the activities, but also after activities.
Yes.
This segment of the No Nonsense Roundtable is brought to you by Valley Fuel. I've used Valley Fuel now for about 20 years or so. Phil Saunders started the Valley Fuel business with a philosophy I subscribe to. Take care of the customer. Valley Fuel reliably and affordably keeps my propane tanks filled for my homes and businesses, but they also provide home heating oil, gas, and diesel fuel for residential, commercial, and agricultural applications. Contact them at valleyfuels.com or simply go to nononsenseroundtable.com to connect with them. Well, welcome back. We're talking to Deb Ross, who is the chair of the Rochester Eclipse Task Force. I like the task force thing. It sounds like you have like big equipment. It's not a group. It's a task.
It is a task force. Right, it's a very active people who are all doing tasks.
They give you weapons. Task force means weapon. Green
Space Force.
Yeah, Space Force. Yes. One of the things I say, people are sick of hearing me saying this, but you look at Captain Kirk, right? You remember the original Captain Kirk, right? You realize that he only had a flip phone to talk to.
That's right.
Right. It wasn't even a.
That's true.
A smartphone.
Look at how far we've come since then.
They could transport you. By their transporter, but they only had a flip phone. It doesn't make any sense to me. No sense at all. But anyway, so we're talking about planning afterward. And the thing that I think I like about the show is that every show I learned something that I didn't know before or I didn't think of before, and the thought that you should plan, and not only just planning getting the glasses that you need and whatever, but where are you going to be? Who are you going to be with, and how are you going to experience this is something that you need to think about.
You do.
And you were just talking in the break is like where are you going to be? I mean, you don't want to be someplace with a lot of trees. I mean,
that's right.
Like, where is this going to be in the sky?
Right.
And let's address those things.
Absolutely. So the first thing you want to plan is, do you want a me eclipse or a we eclipse? If you want a we eclipse, there are so many places around Rochester you can find with the thousands of people, and also with the house full of people who are going to be coming and staying with you who don't live in Rochester because they're not going to be able to find hotels by that time if it's last minute. So, and we'll know, by the way, on April 1st, whether we're at the low end of visitors, 375,000, or the high end, because on April 1st, we'll have the forecast for April 8th.
Okay.
So that will be, if we are forecast anywhere for partly cloudy all the way through sunny, that will push the needle over to many, tens of thousands more people coming here. They'll make last minute plans. Now, for yourself, you've chosen me eclipse or we eclipse. Where will the eclipse be in the sky? Here is the way you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure out where south is. That's the main thing you need to figure out where south is. Face south. And then put on your either real or imaginary Red Wings baseball cap. And then, so that imaginary baseball cap, you're drawing a line from your nose out through the right-hand corner of your baseball cap, up. And that will be where the eclipse will be if you're facing south.
Okay.
So for the nerds, 45 degrees south above the horizon, south-southwest. But for regular people, put on your baseball cap, face west, draw a line, nose out through the right-hand corner, and that's where it'll be. So test out places for, if the sun's going to be there, test out places to make sure you're not around any photosensitive light source at all in your house if anything goes on. You don't want to be where cars might turn on lights, because if it's sunny, it'll be a glorious spectacle. If it is cloudy, what will happen is that suddenly your world will not just be like deep twilight, which it is in a sunny eclipse. In a cloudy eclipse, the world goes pitch black, hand in front of face, dark.
Wow.
So it is no less profound an experience, except that you're not looking upward. You're just around you, and you don't want anything disturbing that dark, because you want that dark for the 3 minutes and 38 seconds. You want to be holding the hands of people you love, and you want to be there together in the dark.
So the eclipse, the moon starts impeding on the sun at what time?
At 2:07 p.m. It's called First Contact.
Okay, 2:07. Okay, I'm writing this down. 2:07. So, I mean, so if you're looking on April 1st at 2:07, that's going to be about where the sun's going to be. There's not going to be that much of a difference. Not much of a difference.
Right.
Yeah. Because the baseball cap thing, I'm incomprehensible about that baseball. No, although I do have a lot of Red Wings caps.
I can imagine you do. Yeah.
Yes, I do. Love them dearly.
Yes.
So the eclipse comes, eclipse goes, and there's stuff after the eclipse for people to do.
There is, because we've been preparing for all this time. We need to keep people there. So the first thing is that everybody who's doing events knows that they need to save stuff about the event for after the eclipse to prevent the mass exodus. We're not going to prevent it entirely. But we want to help stave that off. So, for example, I think that what the Red Wings are going to do is all their giveaways, all the fun giveaways will be after totality, not before. But also that night is the NCAA championship. And so what a lot of the hotels are doing is they're having basketball watch parties, because I mean, even think about the logo. A basketball looks awfully like a moon if you're thinking about it. Right. So that'll be at 9:05 p.m. It's being broadcast from Phoenix, but imagine being in a nice safe hotel and you can go down and be part of the watch party there. And then what's really important, and so also the museums will all be open and we have all kinds of things to do. But afterwards, what you're going to want is to tell your story. Again, everybody will have their eclipse story, guaranteed, and they'll all be different. And the historical associations are especially aware of the need to record and document this amazing moment in our area's 21st century history. So they're doing events. So, for example, on Sunday, May 5th, not that long after the eclipse, the Pulteneyville Historical Society is holding an eclipse storytelling event in Pulteneyville in Gates Hall. Now, Gates Hall is an 1820s building, which is the oldest continually existing theater in the country. But more important from our perspective, Frederick Douglass gave 3 addresses there in Gates Hall. And so I was there actually giving a talk about 3 weeks ago, and it was just chills. I was standing there giving a talk to a rapt audience in the same building that Frederick Douglass had spoken. It was amazing. And now everybody's going to be bursting with their eclipse stories. So everybody throughout our area, young and old, is invited to this free storytelling event where you get a chance to go up to the mic, doesn't matter how old you are, and you're going to tell what that was like for you. And we're all going to relive that in totality, after totality, and it will then that'll help substantiate this as part of our historical record.
So is there official merch?
There sure is. Of course there is, Tom. What do you mean?
There we go. Yes.
So in fact, the world's eclipse artist, he's also an astronomer. His name is Tyler Nordgren. And he did his 2017 eclipse art from throughout the 2017 path was acquired by the Smithsonian for its permanent collection.
Wow.
So Tyler became part of my evil plan. Now, the evil plan, of course, is to make sure that Rochester and Western New York, when anybody thinks eclipse of the 2024 eclipse in the future, they think Rochester. They think community, they think us, they think about playing with light, and nothing unifies a community like art, and nothing is permanent like art. So I met Tyler in 2019 at the national meeting. I started getting involved nationally then, and I said, you have to come to Rochester, you have to make our art, and you have to make it the prettiest poster you have ever made ever. And so he actually came in July of 2019, and I drove him all over Rochester, and I told him all about our history as the image city, how we make things out of our brains, how we play with light. And he made us the best art ever. And that will be then part of whatever the Smithsonian acquires. Can we
see it now?
Yes, we can. So, and we can have it on posters, on canvas, on bags, on cell phones.
So how do we see this?
EclipseMerchandise.com, and you can just order our various artwork that's been, he made more artwork than just that first one because the bug bit us. It did. We've got an Erie Canal poster. We have a Finger Lakes poster. We have a second Rochester poster. There's a Buffalo Bills poster. It's just amazing.
Yeah. One of the things is that it seems like you're having an awful lot of fun.
I am living my best life.
So are you going to be like post eclipse depression? Is that you're a little afraid of that? Or
I am a little afraid of that, right? People have asked what I'm doing after the eclipse. So the day after the eclipse, I am going to Brazil.
Okay.
Kind of,
that's okay.
There is no natural high like an eclipse. Second to it only is a music festival. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to.
Well, it's been a delight having you on. I want to have you on before the eclipse again.
Got it.
I'm sure you'll do that. And we could talk more about your website. I can't remember the name of it. Was it again?
Kidsoutandabout.com.
Kidsoutandabout.com.
Sure.
You have an adult one too, right?
Oh, I do. Right. Because in 2016, people started saying, my kids have flown. I need a site for ourselves. So that is beyondthenest.com, and it's for adults who want to know about Rochester area local arts, culture, and recreation.
I tell you, Deb, it's been a delight to have you in here.
Thanks.
And I really appreciate the time you spent with me. And
Thank
next
you.
week, gang, on 10 o'clock, right here on News Radio WHAM 1180 as a No Nonsense Roundtable.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every weekend from 10 to 11 on News Radio WHAM 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.